The prestigious showroom of Premium Motors buzzed with activity as a grey-haired man in modest clothing shuffled through the glass doors, asking about an entry-level position. The sales team exchanged condescending glances and barely concealed snickers. After all, what could a man in his 60s contribute to a high-end car dealership? They had no idea that beneath that humble exterior was Thomas Reynolds, one of the most respected quality inspectors from corporate headquarters, sent undercover to evaluate their dealership's culture and customer service practices. What happens next will expose the true colors of every employee and lead to changes that no one saw coming. Life at Premium Motors was about to change dramatically. But first, they would learn a powerful lesson about judging others based on appearances. The consequences of their actions would echo through the halls of the dealership for years to come. Prepare yourself for a shocking revelation that will leave everyone speechless. Like and subscribe to follow this incredible story that proves respect and dignity should never be taken for granted. Thomas Reynolds, disguised as James Mitchell, spent his first week at Premium Motors, carefully observing every interaction while maintaining his cover as a humble trainee. The seasoned inspector had seen his share of workplace issues over his 30-year career, but the casual cruelty he witnessed here was particularly troubling. Brad Thompson, the sales manager, had hired him with barely concealed amusement, probably expecting him to quit within days. "Listen, old-timer," Brad had said during the brief orientation, "just try to stay out of the way of our real salespeople. Maybe you can learn something by watching how it's done." The other salespeople didn't bother hiding their disdain, making James their favorite target for workplace jokes. Mark Davidson, the dealership's top seller, took particular pleasure in undermining James at every opportunity. When James was assigned to shadow him with customers, Mark would deliberately exclude him from conversations or make subtle comments about retirement homes having visiting hours. During team meetings, Mark would loudly question whether James could hear well enough to understand basic instructions, encouraging others to join in the mockery. Only Sarah Chen, a relatively new sales consultant, showed any kindness. She often shared her lunch break with James, genuinely interested in his stories about his supposed previous career as a high school teacher. "Don't let them get to you," she would say. "They treated me the same way when I started. They just can't stand anyone who's different from their little club." The harassment escalated when James started showing genuine talent for connecting with older customers. Several seniors specifically requested to work with him, appreciating his patient explanations and respectful manner. This success only fueled the resentment from his colleagues. They began accidentally excluding him from important emails about sales meetings and inventory updates, ensuring he would appear unprepared and uninformed. One particularly cruel incident occurred when James was scheduled to meet with an important customer. Mark had deliberately given him the wrong time, causing James to miss the appointment entirely. The customer complained, and Brad used this as an opportunity to humiliate James in front of the entire sales team during their morning meeting. "This is exactly why we don't usually hire people your age," Brad announced loudly. "You can't keep up with the pace of modern business. Maybe it's time to consider something more your speed, like greeting customers at the local supermarket." Throughout it all, James maintained detailed notes on his phone, documenting every incident, every snide comment, and every instance of discriminatory behavior. He also noted the few bright spots, like Sarah's kindness and the loyalty he was building with certain customers. The corporate investigation was revealing exactly what headquarters suspected: a toxic culture that prioritized quick sales over respect and integrity. As his second week drew to a close, James noticed something even more disturbing. He overheard Mark and Brad discussing ways to manipulate sales numbers and customer financing applications to boost their monthly figures. They were clearly engaging in unethical practices that put both customers and the company at risk. That evening, as James sat in his hotel room reviewing his notes, he received a call from corporate headquarters. They had seen enough. It was time to move forward with the next phase of the investigation. Tomorrow would be the day when everyone at Premium Motors would learn exactly who they had been mocking all this time. James looked at his reflection in the mirror, straightening his posture and allowing himself a small smile. He thought about Sarah, the only person who had shown him genuine kindness without knowing his true identity. Tomorrow would bring changes that would reshape Premium Motors forever, and he was looking forward to ensuring that kindness and cruelty both received their due rewards. The morning started like any other at Premium Motors, with the usual buzz of activity and the sales team gathering for their daily meeting. Brad Thompson stood at the front of the room, ready to begin his typical motivational speech, when the glass doors of the dealership swung open. Two men in expensive suits walked in, followed by Catherine Martinez, the regional director of operations. James Mitchell was nowhere to be seen. Instead, Thomas Reynolds walked in behind them, now dressed in an impeccable business suit, his posture straight and commanding. The transformation was striking. Gone was the hesitant shuffle and hunched shoulders. In their place was the confident bearing of a senior corporate executive. Brad's face drained of color as recognition slowly dawned. Mark Davidson dropped his coffee cup, the sound of shattering ceramic echoing through the suddenly silent showroom. Sarah Chen watched the scene unfold with wide eyes, her hand covering her mouth in surprise. "Good morning, everyone," Thomas spoke, his voice clear and authoritative. "For those who don't recognize me without my old-timer disguise, I'm Thomas Reynolds, Senior Quality Inspector for Corporate Operations. Over the past 2 weeks, I've been conducting an internal review of this dealership's practices and workplace culture." He gestured to the corporate representatives beside him. "These gentlemen from our compliance department have been reviewing all the documentation I've gathered. We have extensive evidence of workplace harassment, age discrimination, and what appears to be systematic manipulation of sales figures." Brad attempted to interject, but Catherine Martinez silenced him with a sharp look. Thomas continued, opening a leather portfolio. "Mr. Thompson, Mr. Davidson, your behavior has been particularly egregious. The constant harassment and discriminatory comments have been documented in detail. More seriously, we have recordings of your discussions about manipulating customer financing applications." Mark's face had turned an alarming shade of red. "You can't do this," he sputtered. "You tricked us. You lied about who you were." "Actually, Mr. Davidson, this type of undercover evaluation is explicitly covered in your employment contract," Thomas replied calmly. "What isn't covered is the systematic harassment you've engaged in or your attempts to manipulate sales data." Thomas then turned to Sarah Chen, his expression softening slightly. "Miss Chen, your professionalism and integrity throughout my time here have been noted. It takes courage to show kindness when those around you are choosing cruelty." The corporate team moved efficiently, calling Brad and Mark into separate offices for immediate discussions about their futures with the company. The remaining sales staff stood in shocked silence, many of them remembering with shame their own participation in the harassment. Catherine Martinez addressed the group. "Premium Motors is undergoing immediate management changes. We've identified serious issues that need to be addressed, but we're also seeing potential for positive change. Mr. Reynolds will be overseeing this transition personally." Thomas watched as the reality of the situation sank in for everyone. He remembered every snide comment, every cruel joke, every moment of deliberate exclusion. But he wasn't here for revenge. He was here to fix a broken system and ensure that Premium Motors became a workplace where respect and integrity were more than just empty words in a mission statement. The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. Brad and Mark were placed on immediate administrative leave pending further investigation. HR representatives arrived to begin interviewing staff members. The mood in the dealership oscillated between shock, fear, and for some, relief that long-standing issues were finally being addressed. Sarah approached Thomas during a quiet moment. "I had no idea," she said softly, "but I'm glad you were here to see what's really been happening. Maybe things will finally change." Thomas smiled warmly. "Change is already happening, Miss Chen. And people like you will be crucial in rebuilding this dealership's culture. Your commitment to treating everyone with respect, regardless of their apparent position or status, is exactly what we need more of." As the day drew to a close, Thomas stood in the showroom, watching the sunset reflect off the polished cars. The revelations had shaken Premium Motors to its core, but sometimes a thorough shake-up was necessary for real change to take root. Tomorrow would bring the beginning of a new chapter for the dealership, and he was determined to ensure it would be one built on a foundation of respect, integrity, and genuine accountability. The days following the revelation brought sweeping changes to Premium Motors. The corporate investigation uncovered more problems than initially suspected. Beyond the harassment and discrimination, Brad and Mark's financial misconduct had put several customers at risk with manipulated loan applications and hidden fees. Thomas took temporary control of dealership operations, working closely with Catherine Martinez to implement immediate reforms. The first order of business was addressing the customer issues. A team of auditors reviewed every sale from the past 6 months, identifying cases where customers had been misled or overcharged. "Every affected customer will be contacted and made whole," Thomas announced during a staff meeting. "Premium Motors will take the financial hit, but more importantly, we're going to rebuild trust with our community. Our reputation is worth more than any short-term profit." Sarah Chen found herself increasingly involved in the restructuring process. Her demonstrated integrity and natural leadership abilities caught Thomas's attention, and he began mentoring her for a management role. "You showed character when it mattered most," he told her during one of their planning sessions. "That's something that can't be taught." The investigation into Brad and Mark's conduct led to their termination. The evidence of financial misconduct was overwhelming, and several customers had already come forward with complaints once word of the investigation spread. Both men faced potential legal consequences for their actions. Some of the other salespeople who had participated in the harassment received formal warnings and mandatory sensitivity training. A few chose to resign rather than adapt to the new standards. Thomas made it clear that going forward, success at Premium Motors would be measured not just by sales numbers, but by customer satisfaction and ethical conduct. The dealership's physical environment began to change as well. The break room, once dominated by an aggressive wall of winners featuring only top sellers, was transformed into a space celebrating team achievements and customer satisfaction stories. New policies were implemented to ensure fair distribution of leads and transparent commission structures. One morning, Thomas received an unexpected visit from an elderly customer who had been one of James Mitchell's clients. "I heard what happened," the man said. "I just wanted to say that even though you were undercover, the respect and kindness you showed me was real. That's the kind of service that makes customers come back." The comment reinforced what Thomas had always believed, that treating people with dignity wasn't just the right thing to do, it was good business. He incorporated this philosophy into the new training programs being developed for the sales team. Sarah's promotion to sales manager was announced 3 weeks into the restructuring. The remaining staff, seeing how her ethical approach had been rewarded, began to embrace the new culture. Sales actually improved as word spread about the dealership's commitment to honest, respectful customer service. Thomas organized a special ceremony to officially install Sarah in her new role. "When I first came here as James Mitchell," he said during the announcement, "Sarah showed me that kindness and success aren't mutually exclusive. She's living proof that you can excel in this business while maintaining your integrity. The transformation wasn't without its challenges. Some long-time customers used to dealing with Brad and Mark were initially skeptical of the new approach. A few of the remaining salespeople struggled to adapt to the more rigorous compliance requirements, but gradually a new atmosphere began to take hold at Premium Motors. 1 month into the changes, Thomas received a report showing customer satisfaction scores had risen significantly. The dealership was attracting new customers who appreciated the transparent, respectful approach to sales. Even more telling, employee turnover had dropped to 0 since the changes were implemented. As Thomas prepared to hand over day-to-day operations to Sarah and return to his corporate role, he reflected on how a simple undercover assignment had snowballed into a complete transformation of Premium Motors. The dealership had become a model for how businesses could thrive while maintaining high ethical standards. The true measure of a workplace, he told the team during one of his final meetings, isn't just its profits, but how it treats people, both customers and employees. Premium Motors is now showing that respect and success go hand in hand. 1 year after the undercover investigation that transformed Premium Motors, Thomas Reynolds returned for a follow-up evaluation. The changes he found exceeded even his optimistic expectations. Under Sarah Chen's leadership, the dealership had become the company's top performer in both sales and customer satisfaction. Walking through the showroom, Thomas noticed the profound differences immediately. The aggressive, competitive atmosphere had been replaced by a collaborative environment where staff members genuinely supported each other. New faces had joined the team, creating a diverse workforce that better reflected the community they served. Sarah's office, once Brad Thompson's domain of intimidation, was now a welcoming space where employees felt comfortable sharing concerns and ideas. She had implemented a mentorship program, pairing experienced staff with newcomers to ensure everyone had the support they needed to succeed. The best part, Sarah explained during their meeting, is that our success has proven we didn't need the toxic culture to be profitable. Our customer retention rate has doubled, and word-of-mouth referrals are at an all-time high. The dealership's reputation in the community had undergone a complete transformation. Local business groups had recognized Premium Motors for its ethical practices and community involvement. Sarah had initiated a program offering free basic car maintenance workshops for senior citizens, inspired by the connections Thomas had made during his undercover stint. Thomas learned that Brad and Mark's legal troubles had concluded. Both had faced consequences for their financial misconduct, with Brad accepting a plea deal that included restitution to affected customers. More importantly, their departure had allowed a new generation of ethical leaders to emerge within the industry. During lunch in the break room, Thomas observed the staff interacting naturally. The forced camaraderie and backstabbing of the past had been replaced by genuine friendships and mutual respect. Even more telling was how new employees were treated with patience, support, and encouragement. "Remember when you first came in as James Mitchell?" Sarah asked during a quiet moment. "I never imagined that showing basic human kindness would lead to all this. You taught us that success and integrity aren't just compatible, they're inseparable." Thomas shared something he hadn't revealed before. The corporate office has been studying Premium Motors transformation. They're implementing similar cultural changes across all their dealerships. Your success here has become a model for the entire company. The afternoon brought a surprise visit from an unexpected source. One of the salespeople who had resigned during the changes returned, asking for a chance to rejoin the team. "I was wrong," he admitted to Sarah and Thomas. "I thought the old way was the only way to succeed in this business. But watching how Premium Motors has thrived, I want to be part of something I can be proud of." Sarah's handling of the situation demonstrated how much she had grown as a leader. She offered him a path back, contingent on completing the dealership's new training program and demonstrating a genuine commitment to their values. "Everyone deserves a chance to learn and grow," she said, echoing the philosophy that had transformed the workplace. As Thomas prepared to leave, he took one final walk through the showroom. He remembered the anxiety and anger he had felt during his undercover days, witnessing the casual cruelty and dishonesty that had pervaded the workplace. Now, those memories served as a reminder of how far Premium Motors had come. "You've created something remarkable here," he told Sarah during their farewell. "This isn't just about selling cars anymore. It's about showing that treating people with dignity and respect is both the right thing to do and the key to lasting success." Sarah smiled, thinking of all the changes the past year had brought. "We still have work to do," she said, "but now we know what's possible when people come together with shared values and a commitment to doing things right." As Thomas drove away from Premium Motors, he felt a deep satisfaction. His undercover mission had sparked a transformation that went far beyond exposing wrongdoing. It had proved that workplace culture could be changed, that ethical business practices could triumph, and that one person's commitment to doing the right thing could inspire others to follow. The legacy of James Mitchell, the undercover inspector who endured mockery and discrimination, lived on in the daily operations of Premium Motors. But more importantly, it lived on in the lesson that success built on respect and integrity was not just possible. It was sustainable and rewarding in ways that went far beyond the bottom line.